So, welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I am Morrow, your storyteller for today, and we have some RPG horror stories for us to cover. By the way, thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers for the channel. Currently right now, on the channel page, on the community tab on the channel, I have a bit of a post for a Q&A. So if you want to submit your questions, make sure to go there, and later on, I'll make a video covering all the answers there. So if you have any sort of questions about D&D, about myself, about anything, go ahead and ask there. I look forward to answering your questions soon. But for now, let's go ahead and get back to RPG horror stories. Religious dude freaks out, ruins the end of a campaign. In my current campaign, my players had been trying to stop a cult from gathering the components for a ritual that the leader believed would allow him to ascend to greater being. After a few sessions, we unfortunately lost one of our players to scheduling conflicts, and our wizard player said he had a friend that he had told about the campaign and they were interested in joining us. So the next week, the group was introduced to our new player, who we'll call Tom, and Tom's wife. They both seem friendly and have come prepared, with Tom bringing a paladin and his wife bringing a cleric. The first session goes well, as the party attempts and fails to stop the cult from obtaining the heart of a unicorn. When the next session rolls around, I introduce a tiefling NPC, and Tom takes an immediate dislike to them, threatening them and calling them a demon spawn. I thought, oh, okay, cool, I like this, it's good roleplay, it fits his character. Weeks go by, and the player has victories and defeats as they attempt to foil the cult and find their lair. In the penultimate session, the party fights off a full-on assault on a temple of the god of justice. The player that had to drop out managed to make a guest appearance and gave his character's life, fighting the cult leader, trying to protect a sacred chalice. At the end of the session, Tom came to me to ask if we could maybe play the next session at his house, and I did not see why not. Next week arrives, and we pull up to Tom's house, and the first thing that stands out to me is a rather large cross hanging from his door. I was raised Catholic and have no reason to have issues with religious people, so whatever. Now, I'm sure what the normal number of pictures of Jesus is to have in your home, these guys have way more. Session starts as they fight through the headquarters to find the ritual underway. The players fight off cultists as the leader continues to mix profane ingredients into a chalice for a few rounds, and thick acrid smoke begins to boil out, obscuring the area. Our ranger decides to try to snipe him and lands 2 shots, one being a crit, the second dealing max damage. The leader, who is next in initiative, chucks the contents of the chalice. I describe as the arrow puncturing his flesh are pushed out and what appear to be spines sprouting from his chest. There's a sickening crack as his ribs break and his chest bulges. The leader vomits black bile before his upper body is torn in half as a demon rips its way into reality. So far, we've been playing with monster tokens from my 4th edition Monster Vault. I removed the token representing the cult leader and replaced it with my brand new hand-painted 40k demon prince miniature. Oh, that's actually so cool, dude. Unironically, like Warhammer miniatures look so freaking cool, especially like any of the chaos factions. Oh, the demons specifically. The party is silent for a second before Tom stands up, slams his hands on the table. His wife starts crying and he screams at me to get out. I was confused and he kind of chuckled nervously and asked, "What do you mean?" He swept his arm across the table, knocked everything to the ground, and screamed that he would not have satanic rituals in his house. I gathered my stuff, including my broken model, and left. This happened yesterday, and I'm honestly not sure what to do. What? Satanic ritual? What? Did I misread the story? Let me see. Yeah, transform, black bile. Yeah, I read through that. There's no rituals at all. And I mean, if this book seems more occult and ritualistic, I'll probably be able to tell. Does not like look very ritualistic and stuff, looks pretty satanic. I mean, this is just a regular book, but like, where was the ritual? Where was the satanic rituals and stuff? I think the story is not even about like a religious thing. I think Tom is just being a jackass. The only thing I can explain of what happened is Tom and Tom's wife don't like the imagery of the Satan or the devil in any way. So a figurine and a description of a fictional cult member fictionally turning into a fictional devil was a problem to them. Does Tom think that, like, you know how, okay, so you know, you ever heard of like this thing where D&D at some point, I think in America, it was considered like a satanic thing that people would do, and like a lot of religious groups basically said if you play D&D, you're basically selling your soul to the devil. Is Tom actually going on that? Dude, it's fake, it's fiction, it's not real. Is this demophobia? I think it might be demophobia. No, you know, it's not demophobia, it's just Tom is being an idiot. He's being scared and threatened by fictional fake things such as a figurine, which he broke, by the way, by slamming everything off the table. Why'd you play D&D then? You probably wouldn't know what D&D is, right? You probably wouldn't know that you're gonna be facing some like demonic incursions. I mean, you're dealing with a cult. You're dealing with a cult that's probably gonna do something culty and crazy. What'd you expect? For them to summon a fairy prince? Or for them to summon Jesus? Sorry, DM, for your broken miniature. I hope you'll be able to glue it back together and stuff. I think my brother would rather be playing Doom. Haha, we're going with more demons then. Sounds good. So this isn't a horror story exactly, but it is an ongoing nightmare of a supposedly easy adventure that I played, my significant other DM'd, and my brother, first-time player, are running. I had asked my brother if he would want to give D&D a try, since he likes creative things like that, and I've been playing for a few years and I'm always looking to bring new people in. DM said he could run an easy start adventure, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, for us, with a few homebrew elements thrown in to make it more fun and enjoyable for my brother, to give him more of a main character feel, without making the story solely about him, i.e. I'm not his sidekick, given that it's first game at all. There was a small hiccup pre-game, and he wanted his backstory to be that he was part of some Black Ops division of the army. The one they call in to do the dirty work, his exact words. Basically John Wick, but level 1. Not John Wick at level 1. He wasn't jazzed about that change, but was happy with the compromise we came up with. Well, the first session went pretty well, I think. I play an overly excitable trigger-happy wizard, and my brother plays a rogue, and we also have 2 NPCs to basically keep us from dying. The only thing that really stuck out to me about the first session was the fact that my brother, playing a half-orc army vet, supposedly used to wade knee-deep in blood and guts if you listened to him, kept yelling, yes, yelling at me to use prestidigitation to clean zombie guts off his armor off after he saw me use a spell and clean a page in my spellbook. This went for the rest of the session, and a half of the next. And clean my damn armor, would you? Etc, etc. I mean, it's good to get into character, but don't yell at people at the table. You could just be like, my character yells out loudly, clean off my armor, and then say it properly, right? There are moments to like amp up and really get into character and stuff, but not if you yell all the time. That's a little bit, oh, just rude. Second session, we met a character who had connections to my brother's past, so naturally, he is very suspicious and hostile towards this character, although adamantly refused to tell anyone else in the party why he is suspicious of this character, despite us supposedly all being a well-bonded party. It has also become fairly apparent by this point that if whatever is happening in-game has nothing to do with him, he will visibly check out, start looking up things on his computer, start stacking his dice into towers, checking his phone, etc. But whatever, it's his first game, it's fine. I mean, if they're early on players, I mean, you could always just after game tell them, hey man, what you did is kind of rude. Maybe it'd be good to engage with stuff, because D&D is not going to be always about you, it's about a cooperative thing. You gotta understand that some people just have like really high egos, and if you feed the ego continuously, they'll just think everything is just about me, and that's how it should be like that. It might be good just to be like, hey listen, it's a cooperative game. Cooperate with everybody, interact, engage with stuff, maybe get into a role play, you know, teaching the baby steps for first-time players and stuff, not the bad habit. If they develop bad habits from the very first session or first campaign, they're gonna expect every D&D to be like that, about themselves. This character has somehow gone from I'm a cold and ass-kicking rogue to charging in short sword akimbo and screaming. He has also completely forgotten about most of his entire backstory, doesn't really remember why he's supposed to be suspicious of this NPC from the past. He's actually fairly nice to him at this point. And each how do you want to do this is more graphic and gory than the last, like beyond Mortal Kombat levels of gory. At one point, he wanted to hack off the head of a monster he killed and bring it back, dripping blood and brains and all, to the terrified people who'd asked us to put a stop to whatever is terrorizing our colony. It's making me uncomfortable, and even the DM is feeling that it's getting to be too much, but my brother's having fun, so He also immediately after we killed the giant octopus took the next half hour of our session to saw its legs off and try to turn them into lunch, repeatedly asking me to use magic to cook them because calamari is delicious, come on, proceeds to wave rotting octopus tentacle in my face. He also has a strength score of 9, the same as my wizard, but will not stop going on about how physically strong and ripped he is, and insisting on doing all the heavy lifting, manual labor, also while calling my wizard scrawny. I never done hunting and gathering in D&D before. I think it'd be kinda cool. Going like a little hunt to find something delicious and cook it and prepare it. Ooh, like a big crab, like a big juicy crab boss. A big juicy crab boss, take it down and make the best meal and prepare a meal for like the next week so that it gives you some sort of like a perk or something. Oh, that's so cool. Anyway, sorry, it's a little bit of a tangent. Back to the story. He also just doesn't really engage with any of the NPCs or any of the story elements. Even when they come up to him to try to speak to him, he won't do much more than directly respond to what they say to him. How did the quest go? We killed the monster. Oh, was it difficult? What sort of challenges did you face? It was fine. Silence. It's kind of solely been up to my character to drive the plot forward, so to speak. Anyway, sessions go on, and little and not so little things keep popping up. During an early combat session, he googled the monsters we were fighting just to get a better idea of what it looked like, not to cheat or anything. And we told him, hey, that's kind of considered not cool. If you want a better idea what the monster looks like, just ask the DM. This hasn't stopped him from doing the same thing several times since. He still also clearly appeared very disinterested if what happening has nothing to do with him, to the point of not paying attention to what is said, and audibly counts how many turns it is until he goes into combat. Looking up monster artwork is perfectly fine, or like creature artwork, but I'll agree with OP, while the session is happening, it's probably not a good idea to do so. Do it after session, right? In the middle of the session, don't look it up and anything. If there's like a VTT, like a virtual tabletop token, and they have an image you can like transpose. I know you could do it on Foundry, where just blast the image of the creature that you find or the DM finds and has it there. That's a really good way to show what the creature looks like mid-table. And then afterwards, after the campaign, if you want to Google some images on Twitter and see what artists come up with, you could do that too. Or like the D&D Reddit or something. Yeah, but to do it mid-game is kind of bad because you could just be like, oh, I'm just looking up the image, but instead you're looking up the stats and weaknesses and everything, and that'd be kind of a dick move to do. But being completely checked out from things that have nothing to do with you, that's I don't know, man, that's kind of crappy, because like at that point you're not paying attention to what's going on. Means you're not paying attention to what the DM is doing, you're not paying attention to the game. Yeah, there are going to be moments in D&D where something's going to happen that has nothing to do with you whatsoever, and that's okay, that's perfectly fine, nothing is wrong with that. But like, don't just be a dick about it and just be like, okay, well, I'm checking out, going through Twitter, because if that has nothing to do with me, I'm not interested. Speaking of combat, by 5th or so session, he still barely knows what his AC is. Doesn't know the difference between his hit bonus and his attack bonus, or the difference between a roll to hit and damage taken, and half the time isn't even certain of which dice he needs to roll for damage. I also usually have to explain to him on each turn what the difference is between the actions, bonus action, and movement. He also has this habit of yelling out of people's names whenever he wants them to do something during a fight in a, hey you, a little help, get over here already type of way. This is also probably just a result of this being his first time playing, but he has an unfortunate tendency of completely dismissing how effective a spell I cast might be. Back to the time when we fought the giant octopus, I used a thunder wave to push it away from me, and my brother goes, thunder damage? What's that gonna do? I said use lightning to fry the sucker. Again, I know that's his first game and all, but yeesh. The DM runs into difficulty during combat because whenever he is describing something that either an enemy or a DMPC is doing, my brother will pop in with, actually, in Jiu-Jitsu, that's called a... Granted, my brother does have a black belt in karate, but bro, this is fantasy. He's also tried to insist that monsters should have different names, saying the giant octopus actually a kraken, or the harpies we later encountered just have been called sirens. D&D does not equal real-world mythology. If your DM wants to call the octopus a kraken, then it's a kraken. If your DM wants to call the giant octopus a giant octopus, it's a giant octopus. If your DM wants to call the giant octopus a squiggly little doodad-day, then it's a squiggly little doodad-day. Also, the whole part about not knowing anything about your character, I mean, It's session 5, but this time you probably should be remembering some things, right? Session 1, it's okay, you're still learning. Session 2, it's fine, you'll get a hang of it. Session 3, okay, you should probably at least know what your AC is, at least. Session 4, understand maybe a little bit of the roles and stuff like that. I mean, if you're interested in something like D&D, you would think you'd want to go Google some stuff, like to realize what's going on. When I first started D&D, man, the first thing I did after my very first session, which was kind of sloppy on my end because I was new, I immediately started reading up on what AC is and how do you calculate AC, what are my stats, what do they do, and what are they, like, how do they attribute to everything, what is charisma used for, what is athletics, dexterity, and whatnot, right? I got really interested in that and I wanted to learn as much as I can. And then I started reading about my friend's class because I was starting with my buddy, right? We started D&D together as like a dual character story arc kind of thing. So I started reading into his class, learning about his class because I'm interested. Even if you're new to a hobby, any hobby at all, whether it be D&D, other TTRPGs, or anything, you'd think you'd want to do more research on it, right? Look up some stuff and figure out what's this, what's that, and kind of pick up on the draw. But I'm gonna give the player the benefit of the doubt and say that they're just kind of enjoying themselves but having a difficult time remembering everything 100% because maybe the sessions aren't happening as often or something, or whatever. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt for now, but it is an RPG horror story, so probably things are gonna get pretty bad pretty soon. And when it comes to rolling, he fairly gets very excited when he rolls a 20, letting out a "Woo! Nat 20, yeah!" each and every time. Or, what are the chances of that? 1 in 20, bro, 1 in 20. Similarly, when he rolls a 1, he'll go, "Oh, come on," after one session, even claiming that it was sort of ruining by the fact that he rolled 2 whole natural ones in a 4-hour session. Never mind that the following session he loudly and repeatedly called himself the MVP of the whole game after some admittedly clever ideas during combat. Meanwhile, when I roll poorly, he has, on occasion, looked into my dice tray and laughed at my low roll. Thanks, bro. I feel like this guy's kind of learning early on that he's like winning in D&D. I mean, listen, if you're rolling a 20, that's dope. I'm super happy for you. Whenever my players roll a 20, I'll go full on gung-ho, like super cheery and happy because I like seeing my players win, because that's part of D&D. I love when my players are doing really well and when they're getting high numbers or getting some really cool abilities done. Part of a pleasure of being a DM is watching your players do some really cool things and cheering them on, especially if they're taking on some really challenges and making it by the ball hair, or like getting a really solid crit and some really high damage and things are just lining up and the combos are going. Oh, it feels so exciting. But I kind of feel like this player might be learning that they're maybe winning D&D. There is no winners in D&D. You can have fun playing stories together and having fun rolls and defeating tough challenges in combat. You win together by working together. The cooperation is winning in D&D, but there is no winner in D&D. Unfortunately, I feel like maybe the lessons aren't really being imparted directly. Like, yeah, if somebody is new and stuff, you gotta tell them immediately from the very start, from the get-go, that D&D is not a game that you win in. You can defeat tough challenges, you can accomplish really tough feats, you can get some really cool things and some really cool accolades for your character and get a lot of things completed, but it's not a game where you not win traditionally. Well, I mean, you can defeat a boss, and for you that's a win, but wins are determined by what you want to do with your character and whether you want to accomplish certain goals. If you decide defeating the toughest demonic foe ever is my goal and you do that, then yeah, that's a win. That's a win for yourself, but it's a personal win. It's a personal story win. There's no like a winning state in D&D. And to top it all off, the final hour or so of each session is interspersed with comments of, "Are we wrapping up soon? We should finish up soon. Guys, are we gonna call it?" Admittedly, this is because he's worried about his parking expiring, but you can extend your parking, and my physically disabled and chronically ill SO can get himself in and from there on the bus. I think he should too, no? Thus negating the parking issue. This could be unreasonable of me, but it was especially frustrating today when, just as an RP moment between myself and the NPC that both the DM and I had been looking forward to for weeks were just about to start. "We should call it here, guys. My parking expires in half an hour." I don't know, maybe I'm being unfair, but it's just getting really hard to play with him. Especially when I didn't even feel like he's engaging a solid 60% of the time. The DM and I talk and vent about this after every session. but don't really know how to bring any of this up to my brother, mostly because this is his first game and we really want to try to let him experience a bit of everything. You want to have him experience a little bit of everything? Fine. Make him experience getting feedback from the rest of the players and the DM. If he is doing something that is clearly disruptive, right, then you gotta tell him. You gotta let him know, and you gotta say, hey, listen, what you're doing mostly won't fly out of the tables because it's just plain rude. Giving feedback to players that need a little bit of feedback and need to be told, hey, you kind of being a little bit extra for today, maybe you tone it down a little, or maybe you did this root thing or that root thing, can you please not do that? That's also part of the game, because guess what, OP, your experience and the DM's experience as well matters. And if he's being a problem player and being very disruptive, then you gotta tell the problem player that they are being disruptive and they should probably cut it out. Again, it's cool trying to like get family members or close friends into your hobby and stuff, but listen, once you give them the whole like main character treatment where their stuff really matters, they'll only pay attention to that. You gotta let him know if he's a problem player. That's it. That's part of the D&D experience. If that turns the guy away, then oh well, nothing you can do about it. It is what it is. It's been hard, man. I love D&D. I look forward to it every week, and this wizard has been one of my favorite characters ever that I've made. And it's kind of depressing how things like this keep adding up and making it harder and harder for me to look forward to when my brother and I sit down to play together, especially since I love playing with my SO as a DM. Call me biased if you like. It's kind of hurtful to see my brother dismiss all the careful world building that my SO has put into the adventure. A lot of it, especially with my brother's backstory in mind, and just go look for the next thing to stab with one of the many weapons he now has. He has refused to part with any weapon he has, despite how good of a new one he finds might be. He now has 4 swords, a short bow, and 5 daggers. Somehow. To be honest, I would keep like 10 daggers if I could, but I'm scrawny and weak and don't have a lot of inventory that I can carry. Oh wait, I do have a bag of holding. I can have 200 daggers. But jokes aside, yeah, if the problem player is your brother, you gotta let him know that they're being a problem player, because that's part of the TTRPG experience. Otherwise, you and the DM are not gonna have a good time. So go ahead and nip in the butt as soon as possible, or else y'all just gonna be not enjoying yourselves. And if the brother decides, oh, well, if you're gonna be giving me criticism and I can't be a disruptive butthole, then I'm just not gonna play D&D. Fine. Some people are just gonna be disruptive. You'll find other people that you can play with. Honestly, if the brother decides not to listen to any of the criticism and chooses just to quit D&D altogether, fine. I mean, it sucks, sure. But like, is it worth disrupting the experience that you and the DM put together? I'd say if the brother's not listening, keep the game going. Rewrite the story part a little bit for the DM and just find 2 more players to join in that aren't going to be like your brother. Or hopefully in a situation, you talk to your brother, they realize, yeah, I was kind of being a rude butthole, I'm gonna stop now, and then things can continue. And hopefully that's the outcome. I'm hoping. And with that, that's going to be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.